The ancient world was full of strange deaths. Emperors assassinated in their baths, poets crushed by falling turtles, and generals slain by their own vanity. But perhaps none is as delightfully absurd as the death of Chrysippus of Sali, the Stoic philosopher who met his end not in solemn meditation, but in a fit of uncontrollable laughter. This is the story of how one of history's greatest thinkers laughed himself to death, and why, centuries later, we're still chuckling about it. Before we get to the donkey, we must understand the man. Chrysippus was not just any philosopher. He was the second founder of Stoicism, the school of thought that preached reason, virtue, and indifference to passion. Born in Sali, he moved to Athens to study under Cleanthes, the successor of Zeno, Stoicism's founder. Chrysippus was a prolific writer. Some say he wrote over 500 works, though none survived intact. His contributions to logic were so immense that contemporaries joked, without Chrysippus, there would be no Stoicism. Yet for all his seriousness, history remembers him best for one thing: his ridiculous death. The fateful moment. A donkey walks into a fig garden. The story comes to us from Diogenes, the ancient biographer of philosophers, who recorded the incident in one of his own works. Here's how it supposedly happened. The day began like any other in Athens. The sun rose over the agora, casting long shadows as scholars and citizens alike stirred to life. Chrysippus, now an elderly but sharp-minded pillar of Stoic thought, made his way to the Lyceum, where he often held court with students eager to dissect the nature of virtue, logic, and the universe's unyielding laws. That morning, he had been refining his arguments on fate, specifically, the idea that all events are woven into an unbreakable chain of cause and effect. Little did he know, the cosmos was preparing a masterclass in irony just for him. As he lectured, his voice steady and his brow furrowed in concentration, the distant clatter of hooves interrupted the calm. A merchant's donkey, untethered and opportunistic, had wandered into a nearby garden where figs had been left to dry in the sun. Unbeknownst to the animal, the figs had been fermented in the heat, their sugars turning to a faint, intoxicating nectar. The donkey, perhaps curious, perhaps just peckish, began to gorge itself. With each bite, its movements grew clumsier, its balance more precarious. By the time Chrysippus paused mid-sentence to locate the source of the disruption, the donkey was fully inebriated, legs splayed, ears twitching, its attempt to stand resulting in a series of graceless collapses. The philosopher's students watched in confusion as their teacher's gaze locked onto the spectacle. At first, his expression was one of mild annoyance, a disruption to the sanctity of reasoned discourse. But then, the donkey, as if scripted by the gods of comedy, let out a belch mid-stumble, tripped over its own feet, and rolled onto its back, legs kicking uselessly at the air. Something in Chrysippus snapped. The sheer absurdity of it. A creature so inelegant, so unstoic. undone by its own gluttony, struck him as the universe's perfect joke. Here was a living, breathing metaphor for the folly of unrestrained desire, playing out before him in real time. Laughter burst from him like a dam breaking, not the measured chuckle of a sage, but the uncontrollable, wheezing guffaws of a man utterly disarmed. His students froze. This was the man who had written treatises on apatheia, the absence of destructive passions, who had argued that the wisdom lay in mastering one's reactions, and yet he was now doubled over, gasping for air between spasms of mirth. The donkey, oblivious, continued its drunken ballet, but Chrysippus was beyond saving. His face turned red, his breath grew ragged, and his body, strained by decades of intellectual labor, and now this violent eruption of joy, simply gave out. Some say he collapsed mid-laugh. Others claim he clutched his chest, still giggling, as the life drained from him. Either way, the lesson was clear. Even the most disciplined is no match for the absurdity of existence. In the end, Chrysippus didn't just die from laughing. He died because he laughed. And perhaps that was the most stoic way to go. A reminder that logic and fate may govern the cosmos, but chaos and comedy always have the final word. Was it really the donkey? Not all historians believe the donkey story. Some suggest he was poisoned, he died of natural causes, or the story was invented by rivals. But the donkey tale persists, because it's just too good not to be true. Chrysippus' death became legendary. Later, writers like Cicero and Seneca referenced it as proof that even the wisest can't escape folly. In a way, his end was the most ultimate Stoic lesson. Life is unpredictable, and the only rational response is to laugh at it. So, the next time you're feeling too serious, remember Chrysippus, a man who dedicated his life to reason, slain by a hiccuping donkey. If that's not proof the universe has a sense of humor, what is? Maybe the real wisdom wasn't in controlling laughter, but in dying from it.